One, two, three, four, 1, 2, ready. Welcome to Straight Talk TV, the show that cares about you. And here's your host, Tony Brown.
Thank you, Steve. As all our viewing audience, as you're seeing right now, we have some people that is going to be coming to you. And as Steve said, Straight Talk is the show that cares about you. And as you can see, where the information comes from the people to the people. But before we get into this powerful show, and everybody, Happy New Year's. Even though it's February, but still Happy New Year's. We all blessed for another one, okay? Now, Steve, if you will, we're going to play the Black National Anthem. So please stand in your heart and in your mind for the Black National Anthem performed by Johanna and Steve McCoy.
Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring, ring with the harmony of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let us march on till victory is won. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun, about a day begun. Let us march on till victory is won. Let us march on till victory is won. Is won. Is won.
Oh my goodness. Go ahead. 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 Go ahead.
Yes, Johanna and Steve McCoy performing the Black National Anthem. And that was something that was said in that song. Let us march on till victory is won. And that means we never quit. It's a marathon. It's a marathon. And we have some guests that are going to be sharing their gift with you. And what I like to do is I like to go, it's a little different, but that's okay. What I like to do is have each one of our guests share just a little bit about them, and then we're going to go into the individual interviews, okay? And we also have, from my right here in the red, please introduce yourself to our viewing audience.
You bet I will. First of all, my name is Rosa Colquitt, and I have the honor of serving as the chair of the Democratic Party of Oregon, and I am also the second vice president of our Portland branch of the NAACP. But I said to the audience, I said to my sisters and brothers who are on camera with me today, that I do have some titles, but none of them, in fact, they dwarf in comparison for me to the title that's most important to me, and that is I am a mother. That's the most important thing I've ever done, the greatest success I can claim. And so I'm very glad to introduce to you that I'm also a mother. Before I say anything else, one of the younger people said it before we were on camera. It is an amazing experience and a blessing to be in the presence and the company and to be invited to anything by Mr. Tony Brown. So I'm just going to have to give him his, acclaim him as a person that is so important as a part of my life in Portland and as a part of the Portland journey period. So thank you, sir, for inviting me. And I want to honor all of the other participants in today's conversation. And I want to say happy Black History Month to everybody. Thank you so much, Mr. Brown.
My pleasure. Give her a clap praise. We really appreciate it. Yes, yes, yes. And we're going to go to my right, actually to my left here. But this lady's all the way from Philadelphia, chiming in just to share her knowledge and her gift with us. Please go ahead, Professor O'Day.
Good evening, peace and blessings, everyone. My name is Aletta Paris O'Day, and 3 things. I believe in taxation, compliance, and quality assurance because it protects our minority businesses. And without our minority businesses, this country is just not strong.
Yeah.
Fact, okay? The second thing is I am the minority certifier in Philadelphia to make sure our businesses have an opportunity to be subprime. I am an educator, and I believe in equal rights for all of us, but particularly I am in the ADA quadrant. And so for entertainment, I just want my family that's on here to know I'm a trombone player. I did graduate, yes. Music is a passion of mine.
Yes.
And just because, and I got a chance to meet Tony through other organizations. So I am blessed to be here and opportunity to share with you all of the things that I can bring to the table, and hopefully you will pass it on. Thank you for having me.
A clap praise. Go ahead, a clap praise. Yes, 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 yes. And right in the middle of both these beautiful people is D'Angelo. And I hope I get this right. He's the first president of the NAACP in Portland. Did I get that right, sir?
Correct. I'm the first vice president. Well, first, thank you for having me on today. Like you said, my name is D'Angelo Moaning. I serve as both the first vice president and the chair of economic development for our Portland NAACP. I also serve as a board member for the Portland Clean Energy Fund, which is a fund for the city of Portland to create more opportunities for Black and Indigenous people in the green space and energy efficiency, renewable energy, and embodied carbon. So pleasure to be here. Pleasure to impart some wisdom and obviously learn something from the group as well.
Appreciate you. Appreciate giving them black praise. Yes, yes, yes. And you heard everybody speak about being parents. Well, this young man, he's definitely a parent. He feels the role completely and then some. I mean, like he just pours into his community, his children. Please come aboard, Mr. Michael Frazier.
All right. Hey, we're glad to be here, Tony. It's truly a blessing. We're just it's a fun family. I'm a band director at a high school. That's one of the jobs. I have a couple of jobs that I do, but that's one I have a lot of passion in. And trombone player, that's what I'm talking about. I'm a band player myself, and so I can never have enough brass. So I just want to say that's awesome. And we're going to have to get you to play that trombone, dust that thing off and bring it. But we're a musical family. And it was one of my prayers is always to have that my kids would do music, and we kind of watched them as they grew up. And they've been doing it ever since they were little, among some other things that they do. But as quickly as I could get them acclimated, if they could play a beat, man, I had them playing for some church services. And just like that, and just like Steve and Johanna McCoy, who did the Black National Anthem, I know those folks pretty well. The Jones family. I mean, there's a lot of talent in the Portland area. In Touch. I mean, I'm thinking of some of the bands and stuff and the people that I know, but most of them I've known through the church. And that's where the musicians seem to come from. But we're a plug and play family. We during the COVID and things like that, we were having service right out of our house. And so we would just set up like similar to what we got behind us. And man, you could put us in a park, put us at a church, put us in a school. It don't matter. We just plug in and then we could take over from there. And we've been doing it. They've been doing it ever since they were little. I'm going to let them introduce themselves to you. But I got everywhere. I mean, they started probably when my youngest started. Well, Austin, when he was 7, Jordan, when he was probably 5 or 6, Jaden the same. So they all been doing it since they were little. And then they've just been around. We've been around a lot of folks who poured into them. which has just been a blessing because, and they're sponges, they were learning. And then hopefully we'll have some fun with you guys here later on today, but I'll let them introduce themselves here to you.
All right, my name is Jaden. I've been playing the piano since I was like, I would say about like 4 or 5. Yeah, around that time, 4 or 5, I've been playing the piano ever since. I started getting into jazz more recently, but like, yeah, piano has just been like a big part of my life growing up and just music in general and everything. So.
And Jaden's 16, she's 16 years old now.
That's unbelievable. Well, my name is Austin. It is such a pleasure to be back. You know, I will never say no to get on the Tony Brown Show. That's the first thing, my brother. I am 20 years old. I am a filmmaker, musician, and a proud paraeducator. All I can say, man, it's just a pleasure to be back, my brother. It's a pleasure to be back.
Appreciate you. Yes.
My name is Jordan Frazier. I'm the youngest child. I'm 14 years old.
Sir.
I've been playing drums since I was like, I think 4 years old. And I played my first church service when I was about 7. And I'm still playing in church to this day.
Yes.
Yeah. And by the way, Tony,
Yes.
you know, like I said, I was a high school band director. And so he was my main drummer at age 12 in my high school jazz band. And we participated in like the Clark College Jazz Festival, Skyview Jazz Festival, just to name a few. And he was my main drummer when he was 12 years old. So we just enjoy music and being able to share it and use the gift that God gave us. And we can't forget about my lovely wife here.
I'm Casey, the proud mom of these 3. Scared me.
Yeah, there is nothing we could do without our mom. So there's no, even though she won't be playing with us, we got to give credit where credit's due.
And she plays piano, so don't get it. Yeah, she's a piano player, and grandmother is who taught all my kids how to play piano.
Oh my goodness. We're gonna give y'all a clap praise. And also viewing the audience, they're coming back. They got some treat for us, so they're coming back. But what we're gonna do right now, we're gonna go over to the financial part. A lot of you was DMing me and said, let's get some information from that tax lady. Well, she's back. And she's gonna share some information because it's tax season and all of us need to understand in order to engage, we have to have the information. So we're gonna go right over to Professor O'Day, and then we got other guests are gonna come back, and stay tuned. It's great information. Okay, go ahead, Steve. We're gonna go over to the interview with Professor O'Day, give us some financial information. Okay, Professor O'Day, people we want to say who's that lady, that tax lady. They want to know that tax lady, so she's back. What's going on? And thank you so much all the way from Philadelphia sharing with us. We appreciate it so much.
Oh, thank you again for having me. And I'm just loving all the guests. So this is the time of year you either love me or you hate me. It's either I don't want to see her or I'm in a hurry to see her. Depends on where you are. But I wanted to talk about the top 10 things you can take away this year. This is a topsy-turvy, crazy tax year. Everybody's mad at you because they can't get 21 and 22 refunds like they were getting, because all of that is going way back to 2018. So a couple of things. First and foremost, what you need to keep in mind when you're choosing a tax preparer. Some of you have accountants, and hopefully your accountants are having great conversations with you and you're not just passing off your paperwork and not understanding what you signed. Because the IRS does not care that you say, I gave it to my accountant. What they care is that, ma'am, you signed it. Sir, you signed it. It says that you know what that tax professional or CPA is doing. So I need you to keep in mind that there's a lot of fraud going on. There's a lot of fraud with Social Security numbers, people passing, people trying to do all kinds of things. So please protect yourself by one, seeing that your tax professional or your CPA is still certified. There's still people who are not certified that are CPAs, but you want to at least check with the IRS to see that they're at least registered with the IRS. Then you have an idea that they are pretty much who they say they are. Okay. Don't neglect gig income. So this is for all you Uber drivers, DoorDash, Lyft drivers. You don't pay your quarterly taxes. You can't be mad when you make 80, 90,000 and you owe 12 or 13. Okay. I'm just going to shoot from the hip. You too, like all other micro businesses or small businesses and musicians alike and people in the arts, have to pay your quarterly taxes. If you own a business in the United States, you have an EIN number, you register with your state, you have to pay estimated taxes. That's a conversation that if you have not had with your tax pro or your CPA, you need to have that conversation because they should be meeting with you on a quarterly basis to say where we are, here's what you need to do. Now, if you're the person who, oh yeah, he gave it to me and then you didn't mail it, then of course that falls on you. Please know that there's penalty and interest when you don't do the right things. That's not a letters law. Please feel free to look at the IRS. They'll tell you about estimated taxes and your role and responsibility to pay it in April, June, September, December. They give you that. Don't neglect handling lottery or inheritance. Inheritance, and it differs in different states, but we've had a lot of people who have transitioned. In Pennsylvania, I know that we have 9 months to get all of that together. But I always, because I also teach estate planning, please put something in writing. Don't have to do GoFundMe. And it is going to be a state inheritance tax issue. And depending on how much you have in your estate, it may be a federal issue. So that's a conversation you may want to have at a later date also. Okay, so as people are getting older and we're having children younger, the folks in the middle get to take care of the babies
Right.
and their adult parents. So I know there's a name for it, but I don't have one just simply because you either get 900 great grandkids, couple of grandkids, and then your parents are living to be 90, 100, even over 100 years old. So you can claim your parents. So I want to destroy some myths. Myth number 1, oh, my child's 18, I can't claim them anymore. That's not a true statement. You can claim your child as long as you pay more than 50% of their support. You can claim that child as long as they're in college. If they're in college, they can make as much money as they want. They just file a return as a dependent on your return. They don't get to do it by themselves. Why? Because that American Opportunity Credit that's refundable, you as the parent can get up to the $2,500. They can only get $1,000. They're not over 24. Okay? So you probably give them the $1,000 anyway. So please have that conversation with your young adult. Social Security and pensions. If your Social Security and pension together is more than $25,000, your Social Security is taxable. And I know people think, well, I'm retired now, I don't have to. Yes, that's not necessarily true. If your pension and your Social Security equal $25,000, now your income becomes taxable, and you need to have that conversation if you're taking taxes out of your Social Security or increasing the taxes they're taking out of your retirement. I get it if people know I'm not taking it because you think you don't owe, but that's not the law, people. I only quote law, not personal opinions, okay?
Okay.
So now, all of us who was in the crypto income, y'all got to report that. Okay, sooner or later, you get that letter 3 years later saying you knew you had some crypto and you didn't report it. The IRS, listen, the government knows everything. So it's always amazing to me that people say, I don't want the government in my business. Okay, that's not going to happen. They even know when the person paying you under the table pays you because you're giving away money and you can't claim it anywhere. So, yeah, and anyone like to donate to me because you just love me, cool with that. But you have to, that digital income, if you're not sure what to do with it, please ask. Don't let it get away or get caught, because if you took a loss on it, you're able to deduct that. But you need to make sure your tax professional understands how to do crypto income and deductions and credits. If you own that electric vehicle, if you had skylights and all those wonderful things, you only have 1 more year to get the maximum deduction, 2025 is when all of that goes away. And there's actually a list of vehicles that, and you can go to irs.gov, they will give you all the vehicles that are eligible. It has to be made in America. So all those folks with a Maserati, BMW, and anything that's not made in America, so you only get in a percentage, but it tells you it has to be made in America. So please know the rules for tax credits for buying electric vehicles, plug-in hybrids, those kind of things, okay? Teachers finally get a little bit of a raise. Listen, they have not raised that teacher buying your own school supplies since 2002. And they gave us $50 more. So now we can deduct $300 whole dollars as an educator and
Right.
$600 if you're both educators. Okay? So make sure if you're an educator, you get your $300 deduction. Okay? And anything else, it depends. And they have changed all the standard deductions to increase everything. Very few people are in a position where they can itemize. So that's another thing that you might want to check out. The last couple are parents need to know where they stand on the expanded child tax credit. So everybody's saying we getting $3,600 back. No, you are not. The first $2,000 decreases your tax liability. Anything after that is additional child tax credit, which is refundable. So when they say, oh yeah, the child tax credit is worth $3,600, that does not mean I'm getting $3,600 per child. That is not what it means. It means the first $2,000 decreases your tax liability, and if there's anything left over, then it becomes a refund. And lastly is, if you're worried about paying that tax bill, if you are an S Corp or a C Corp and you actually by March 15th has not filed your tax return, but you also haven't sent the IRS any money, if you're an S Corp, C Corp, or partnership, they can, and you haven't sent them any money now, I'm saying, you can ask for the extension, and the extension is good to October, but the extension is for paperwork. It is not for you to pay them by October 15th. If you send no money, there's a $450 fine every single month you don't pay. So people will pay on the 15th, and then 6 months later they get, oh, I owe $1,100. You owe $1,100 because you did a tax return, or you didn't do a tax return. You asked for an extension and you paid no money. Again, it is only for paperwork. It is not if you owe them. And there are so many ways to make arrangements to pay the IRS. If you owe that kind of money, they usually will take what you owe, divide them into 72 months, and that's your payment arrangement. Of course, you can pay them off earlier. And yes, there's a 3% interest rate. They can get rid of penalties. Sometimes you can get them abated, but they'll tell you we never get rid of interest. So there's an interest rate every month that you owe them, but that may be better than not paying somebody or trying to go to a tax relief who's going to do the same thing that you can do pretty much. And that $25,000, if you have a great tax pro or a good CPA, they can help you with that tax relief that the IRS offers. There's various ways to pay that tax bill. So worst case scenario, you either love to get that refund, which is not as much as it has been, or I'm gonna cry because I gotta pay you more taxes because I didn't pay my estimated taxes and nobody told me till today. So hopefully this is great information. Please share with your friends. Anything you need me to send you, I will send. And again, I tell people my mouth's not a prayer book. This is not coming from a letters book of anything. Everything I am quoting you is on the irs.gov website. Please feel free to look it up. And if not, I will send you, Tony, anything you need for any of the questions that people may ask. And I thank you all for listening, paying attention, and hopefully you will share the information.
Absolutely. Let's give Professor Odette clap praise. I got a quick question. first of all, thank you so much for the information. But if people want to keep track of their mileage, is there a particular mileage calculator or something they could use to keep, because those mileage is very important as well.
Yes, mileage trackers are required by the IRS now. You can't just tell me. See, Uber does a really good job at telling you how many miles you have, but DoorDash and those other ones don't do anything but tell you this is how much I paid you. So Mile IQ is one. I like Mile IQ just simply because it gives me a breakdown. It separates your business miles from your personal miles. But there are a lot of mileage trackers out there, and it's imperative, especially you gig drivers. And that's all those people who do those kind of things. It's important that you have that, because you can't just tell me, well, I drove 53,000 miles. And the other important, this is the beginning of the year. Since it's the beginning of the year, you're ending December 31st, 2023. Mileage is the beginning of your January 1st, 2024 mileage. So you need to have that so that at the end of the year, you're not guessing how much mileage I have. And I just want to bring one other thing up since you said that. I know some people lease those Uber cars and everything, but if you lose one car and have another, there's almost an $11,000 bonus for having a car for gig drivers. And I think that's a conversation we don't have with any of them. So they don't get a chance to depreciate the car. They don't, or trucks for people in construction business. There's a whole vehicle expense thing that people just don't get, but that's key for mileage, because you cannot take insurance, you can't take actual, you can't take any actual, you can't take gas, and I got my car, and any of those actual expenses are just that, actual versus mileage. You're either one or the other. And if it's your first year, please know you need to take mileage, because if you don't take mileage, you will not, and you take actual, you will never be able to take mileage. So just know that.
Appreciate
Did
that.
that answer your question?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. If somebody, does anyone have a question they want to ask Professor O'Day?
Yes,
Okay.
oh, please feel free to send me an
Yes.
email, because it's tax season, so that's the easiest way to get me at aokassociates@gmail.com.
Please say that again so people can get that, viewing audience.
aokassociates with an s@gmail.com, or I get our voicemails on 267-225-1230. I will not miss your call. I always ask for a 48-hour turnaround time during this season, and I work all year. So please feel free to contact me, and I will answer your questions. No charge.
Okay. Professor O'Day, we appreciate. Let's see. I don't know if you can see, but I got my pen and paper because this is great information. I got another question. One thing you said that's really important that I caught as well is, even though you give your information to a tax preparer or a CPA, you are responsible.
That is correct, because you signed saying that you know what that person did. So in the event you had an audit, if they said, so what are these things that you have on your tax return? Because people like to put you in business, give you some child you don't own and all kind of things. And all you do is, as long as I don't owe, I don't care. You sign it and keep going, but you don't know what's on there. If you're a small business or a micro business, it's your business to know your business. So you need to understand what is on that. And even if you're just mom and pop and I'm getting my taxes done, you need to know what's on it. You sign saying you know what someone did. So at the end of the day, you can't tell them, well, I gave it to my tax person, and the answer will be, but you signed it saying that you know what they did. So the responsibility becomes you. Then it's expensive sometimes to go get somebody to represent you, to get you out of what you couldn't have been eliminated from in the first place.
Appreciate that. And saying that it's quote unquote Black History Month, share a little bit of history, because you have some history in Philadelphia. Can you share a little bit?
So my grandmother was the first African-American shoe repairer in Philadelphia. They say in the country, but we definitely know in Philadelphia. So I come from a long line of entrepreneurs. And so she just passed last year at 106.
Oh my
So
goodness.
we also have a little longevity there.
Yes.
And to tell you the truth, my passion is to make sure our micro businesses and startup businesses have a solid foundation. Because if the foundation is solid, we can't go anywhere but up, right?
Right.
You know, if you on the ground, you can't go anywhere but up unless, of course, they throwing some dirt on you, and we're not doing that.
Exactly. We appreciate
But
you.
thank you for allowing me to share that.
We give it a clap, praise. We appreciate you, Professor O'Day, and thank you so much for taking time out. I know it's a 3 hours difference, and so we really appreciate you working 24/7, as you said, as you stated, and you here sharing your gift with us, and you open up your information to the people. Again, AOK Business LLC, and can you put?
Mm-mm.
Did I get it wrong?
Hey, okay. Oh, business services is the name of where's the chat? Uh-oh. When we put it in the chat?
Yeah, please put it in the
Then
chat so the people can get it as well.
okay.
The information. Again, we appreciate you. Be blessed, and thank you so much for
Oh,
sharing.
I thank you. I'll be on to watch everyone else, and I thank you for allowing me the opportunity to come and share.
My pleasure, my pleasure. Well, Steve, we're gonna go to our next guest, but before we go ahead and run that clip, Steve. This young lady sent this to me on Facebook. Let me say something to everybody. When you have something positive that you want to share with the community, please send it to me, as people have been. So we're going to get to the different reels and clips that people are sending me, but I have to edit them first to make sure it's all good. You understand that? And then we will play it. This young lady sent one to me. I think her name is Mary, like Merry. And it was a pretty good clip that she put together. Go ahead and run that clip, Steve. Give a clap praise to Mary. Give a clap praise to Mary. Mary, we appreciate that. And like I said, if you got some positive videos, clips you want to send me, continue to do it. And like I said, the ones that I have, I'm going to get through them. So if you say, I sent you my clip and you haven't played it yet, just give me a little time. We'll get it up. We'll get it out there. But we really do appreciate it. And you know, when I was looking at that, I was talking to a gentleman the other day, and he said something that was really powerful. He said, Tony, appreciate you with what you're doing. He said, but life is like this. He said, we have memories, we make memories, and one day we're going to be a memory. And I just thought about that when we was looking at that video, that clip there. So love on somebody, share something positive, be peaceful. I know sometimes it gets difficult, but share something. We're going to come back to our guest right now, Dr. Rosa Collette. And we have a gentleman from the NAACP. And we're going to talk a little bit about politics, because people, now is the time. It's been the time, but it's really, really, really an extra time that's going on in the, and I'm going to say this too, people say the world is messed up. The world is perfect. It turns on its axis 360 degrees every time. If it didn't, we'd be floating off of it. It's what's going on in society. And right now, it's some difficult times. And it's so important that our vote. Well, let me just, I'm gonna let the people that have the gift to share with you about. Please welcome Dr. Rosa Colette and D'Angelo. Please.
Thank you so much, Tony. It's Colquitt, but Colette sounds good.
Okay, Colette, okay.
No
Only
worries about
Colette,
no
okay.
worries about that. Again, I'm really grateful to be here today and to be a part of this program. I want to thank the professor so much. Just when I thought I knew a little bit about my taxes, I just learned a whole lot more. Thank you, ma'am, so very much. One of the things I wanted to say, and thank you for that intro, Tony, is that part of the work that I do, why I do the work that I do, has to do with my own values. But inherent in my values or embedded in them is my belief, not just as a person who does volunteer work in politics and who serves as a chair of a party, but I firmly believe that the economy should work for every person in this country, that health care should be a right, not a privilege, that the diversity that all of us bring to the stage, to the community, to wherever we are working in our churches, in our communities, that our diversity is our strength,
Yes.
and that democracy, what I describe as democracy, our rights and our freedoms are worth fighting for here in Oregon and all across America. And when I think about that core belief that the economy must work for us, we must have health care, we must have human dignity. What I really think about that is that it is embedded in the right to be able to vote, to exercise the right to vote. I think about it 12 months of the year, but I especially think about it during Black History Month when folks are celebrating the contributions and the resilience of Black people. That kind of comes to the fore in Black History Month, which is something that should be prevalent year round. But it is so tied up in what I remember Congressman John Lewis said it the best. He says the vote is sacred, the vote is precious. It is the most important right we have, the most important weapon we have, nonviolent weapon we have to live in and to create a free society. And so that vote is very important. But it's my hope that people remember that vote throughout the year, 12 months around, even though we wait until February and we start exclaiming about it and praising it and talking about it more. But it's important to remember the right to vote, the things that Black folks have been fighting for since the turn of the 20th century. We've been fighting for our rights, the right not to be discriminated against, to have full access to the ballot box. And one of the things that's happened for me, I would put it back, going back to about March 19, when meetings began to close down and businesses began to close down. We were in the throes of the COVID pandemic. And there's so much negative. I was thinking about what you were saying, Tony, about the negativity and fighting and illuminating the positive. But the pandemic, if I can say one thing, one good thing that came out of it, particularly when we look at our white brothers and sisters, because of the pandemic, what was brought to light is the proportionality, the inequities that Black folks face all the time. When we went through the pandemic and there was a need for healthcare, a need for more housing, a need for jobs, a need for everything, it sort of hit communities across the spectrum. And so folks began to look at, well, Black people, this wasn't new to us. And we know that this was not new to us, this disproportionality in getting good jobs, getting equitable, good health care, being able to have a good job, not living in substandard housing. We knew all of these things. And so a positive thing that actually came out of the COVID pandemic was the exposure that this happens all the time to Black folks, then others began to experience it. But I want to bring that to something more positive, and that is what Congressman Lewis taught us about voting and the right to vote. And I had the experience yesterday. I spent time at the Highland Christian Community Center. It was the Portland Black History Month celebration in conjunction with an earlier activity that had to be rescheduled because of a snowstorm, keeping the dream alive. I was talking to people who came to where I was tabling, and my question was, do you mind if I ask you a question? Are you registered to vote? I said, we have automatic voting in Oregon, but you do have to declare a party. You don't tell me which party. We're not going to get political here, but just are you exercising that right to vote? And many people said to me, again, I'm going to make this into something positive, but many people said to me, no, I don't, because it doesn't make any difference. It doesn't matter if I don't vote. And I think my job and the job of everybody that cares about dignity and equality in this country is to do better voter outreach, better voter education, to say to people, yes, your vote does matter, whether you do vote or you don't vote. And so I talked a little bit about a non-vote. A non-vote is still a vote, but it simply means that you are allowing others to shape your future and to make decisions about policy decisions that have to do with housing and jobs and health care and transportation and clean energy, climate change, immigration reform. I could just go on all day about how voting impacts policy. And if you don't vote, you have that right to vote, then it means you're allowing others to shape your future or to have an impact on policy by who gets to make policy and to shape policy when you don't vote. And so I decided yesterday I need to do a little bit more in a gracious way, in a loving and a kind way, to say, yes, it is your right to vote or not to vote, but that there is power in a non-vote. So give it a little bit more thought.
Absolutely.
Some people were receptive to,
Right,
to
exactly.
that,
But
to
you know,
that
you touch on
train of
something,
thought, but
you touched on
yes.
something, Dr. Rosa, is that about the voting, also to the ground root level. And I'm gonna bring D'Angelo in
Yes,
here. The ground root level determines where a lot of that budget money goes
exactly.
behind the vote. So people understand that. Go ahead, D'Angelo, before I get all emotional. Come on, D'Angelo, please, sir.
I want,
Thank you
I
for
want you
being-
to finish. I want you to finish your thought. Yes, I feel like you were going somewhere good.
Yes, he was.
My thought is that people don't realize that when they say I don't vote, the money that supports their schools, the money that fix the roads in their streets, the taxes that they pay, is all tied into the voting and who you put in those positions.
Yeah.
That's what's kind of where I was going, but about the people with the information. Come on, D'Angelo, please. Thank you.
So I come with a bit of a different perspective. Let me be clear on what I'm saying. I firmly believe that all people should vote. We have the right to vote for a reason, especially as Black people. We definitely need to vote. My perspective comes from I would say, younger perspective. So I'm 32 years old. I've been loosely related in politics since I was 19. Portland Youth Builders actually sent me to the Capitol building at the in DC to go lobby. And I had a very different perspective of it back then because I didn't understand why politics mattered. I didn't understand why my vote mattered. And I didn't have anybody to really educate me on the importance of that. Now, 13 years later, I work as a campaign manager. So clearly I figured some things out, right? But, for me, the important thing that I want young people to know is, we have to understand, well, I guess there are three things that are important to me is social capital, political capital, and economic capital, and making sure that young folk understand the importance of the three and that they have the guidance to go down that path, right? And so I support things where I hear as a 32-year-old, I'm not quite an elder, but I'm not quite a young man either. So I get to see both perspectives and understand and kind of get to paint the picture on both sides. So, when I talk about economic capital, I hear a lot of our elders talk about home ownership, right? And how that's important in developing homes and having policies that support building more homes, right? But then there's the affordability aspect of it for a lot of people that are my age and younger that can't afford a house. So how do we create a stronger economy? How do we create alternate pathways for people to have that economic leverage? So economic prosperity through traditional pathways like college versus alternate pathways through the trades, right? Having an understanding of what policies are in place, like the Infrastructure Jobs Act, right? I think that is up to $1.2 trillion. But
Mhm.
one example of something that I worked on here in Portland is I worked on an infrastructure project, and I'm going to tie it all in, I promise. I worked on an infrastructure project. It was about $1.9 billion worth of work over 5 years. And there was an entire infrastructure plan where it was $24 billion to be spent over 10 years. So having young people understand that there is an opportunity to actually have some sort of economic leverage to create healthy outlets for our youth, as well as gain skills in order to build your community. So now that you have these hands-on skills to build your community, I think what I've seen, I shouldn't say I think, what I've seen is that younger people, when they're actually putting their hands in building their communities and they're actually making a living wage, not worried about paying their bills because they're taken care of, then they have more of a vested interest in the policies in place to keep those communities safe, clean, and affordable, right? So when you have the financial leverage and the financial capital to where you're not so worried about how to just eat and how to live, you can then pay attention to other things about, what policies are in place at the local and the federal level that'll impact me and the people that come before me or people that come after me, right? Those are the things that have to matter. And I've seen that change through infrastructure work. So it's hard for young people to really care about politics when they don't see a way in it because they're worried about, again, how do I live? How do I eat? How do I make a living wage? And how can I even participate in this process when I don't have social, political, or economic capital to get involved? As well as having elders that are willing, like Rosa's been with me, to walk down a lot of these processes and understand what goes into political process. So then you can speak intelligently to it when you're in the room. And you also have somebody with a lived experience that can then fill in the gaps that you don't have because of your age.
Right. You know what? I want to tie something in right here
Yeah.
because we hear a lot. They say, whoever they might be, that they don't want to hear from the elders. They don't know nothing. Their time is through. But you just touched on something that I think is very important to put a pin right in there, is that if you have someone in the room with you,
Mhm.
or that's traveling that journey with you, that's giving you the information, you're receptive to it, it makes your walk a little better. It gives you more informative information to work with. And so I like when you said that. I just want to put a pin in there and read and go over that again because we hear a lot. They say we hear a lot. All the elders, their time is up. No, their time is just beginning because it's
Yeah.
coming to you. So I
Yeah,
appreciate it. Go ahead, sir. Yes.
absolutely. And I think people, well, I gotta stop saying I think. I hear that a lot because of the disconnect between the elders and the youth. So there comes a point where, you can have somebody that's young, that has, young legs, that's ready to fight the fight, but they don't have any understanding. You know, the elders that don't really want to deal with young people that have that mentality because they think they've got it all figured out, right? And so there can be, not always the case, but there can be kind of a gatekeeping where I don't want to deal with this because you think you've already got it. And I don't think the elders, their time is necessarily up. I firmly believe that the elders, their job is to dream the dream, but it's the young people that fight the fight. But there has to be a marriage and understanding of, again, you're young, you're inexperienced, but I can teach you. But you have to be willing to learn. You have to be willing to listen. And as you're listening, you may see this problem a lot differently than we do because you have much different resources or much different understandings of things as the world is today. So how do you marry that experience with new policies, new procedures to get things done? There has to be a marriage of our elders and our youth and our community. And
Yeah.
I won't get too deep into it, but I'm sure we all know the reasons why there was the disconnect, whether it be, the war on drugs, super criminals, the incarceration, prison industrial complex. All of these things have created this separation, but how do we bridge that divide in such a way where we can work together? Because I think there's 86,000 Black people in Oregon. And I think 68 of them live in Portland. So there's not Portland Metro. So there's not a lot of us. So we have to make sure that we're working conducively, we're working together, and we're bridging, old problems with new ways to get things done effectively. But there has to be, again, financial security, financial capital, social capital, and political capital, because that's the only way that you can have change. And the elders are going to have those three things. The youngsters are going to have to come up and learn how to develop those three things. But it's a lot better when someone's teaching you how to get there and kind
You
of,
bet.
greasing the wheels so you can get there.
Absolutely.
D'Angelo, I couldn't agree with you more, but I'm going to loop this back around. I know I'm going to sound like a broken record, but that's my job, to be a broken record sometimes.
Let's
I'm
be
going
the
to
LP version.
I'm going to loop this back around to the precious sacred right to vote, because those three areas that you spoke about, they are all tied into policy making. And it depends on who we voted for to put in positions to make these decisions. And that is a really big discussion, how we how we close some of our intergenerational gap. That is a huge discussion, and we need to have that. Mr. Brown needs to have a program where we come on here and we talk about how do we make that nexus? How do we do the intergenerational connection? Today, I'm so glad D'Angelo is here because he's brought that discussion to the forefront. But I want to loop it back to using that sacred right to vote, because who sits in these political positions have the greatest impact on all the concerns that you've raised. And so we must use that particular, or who doesn't sit in those positions based on a non-vote, has an impact on where we are. And we do need to connect more. Elders need to understand how younger folks are feeling, and younger people need to understand that they stand on the shoulders of the journey of those folks who came through. And I'm not quite an elder yet, but my parents taught me plenty about the 1960s because they lived through it. And my aunts and grandparents, even before the 60s, I could hear my grandmothers talking about Jim Crow. And it was almost too painful for me to hear as a young person some of the things that elder Black people lived through. But we do need to connect. We need respect. And we need to, at the base of all of this, we do need to exercise our citizenship. And one of the rights of citizenship is that sacred vote. And so likely you're going to find Dr. Rosa on the stump about this right to vote, because we're allowing too many people to shape our future who don't have our interests at heart.
Absolutely.
And we must put those people there who understand who we are, who have a strong sense of humanity for all. And we need to work with those people and to get those people in. And I feel I have a responsibility to younger people to help them through their journey, to stand up and fight, to eliminate some of this student debt that they're in. But I think D'Angelo brought up a very, very important point. And I'm going to let Mr. Brown jump back in here.
Oh, no, that's fine. That's fine. And I want to say right there is thank you so much for
Yes.
inviting D'Angelo, sharing
Yes.
about him. And I said, absolutely. And I thank you for accepting that invitation, because that bridge needs to be brought together. To say, or the word you use, marriage together. And so that is so important. But I want to drop something into everybody right now. We're talking about this voting. I was looking at the voting right, and I want to share something with you. Passed by Congress June 4th, 1919, and ratified on August 1920.
Yes.
Women received the right to vote. But before that, passed Congress February 26, 1869, and ratified February 3rd. Now they passed something, then they ratify it.
Yeah.
We won't get into that right now, but there's a difference. There's something going on there. 1870, the 15th Amendment, people, if we get a chance, start reading those amendments. Just look at them just a little bit, just get a little information about what they are. The 15th Amendment granted African American men the right to vote. So we got the right first, but then in 1920, women got the rights. So anybody viewing this program, this is just not about one gender of people, one race of people. This is about your vote. And there's something else. The passing of the voting right, that has to be voted on again every 10 years. So us that's thinking, well, that's my voting right, we got people. Get ready, it's a change coming.
Yes.
Every 10 years. So what do you think all this is going on about right now, about this voting? And why is it, let me say this right now. Why do you think they're putting all the roadblocks up if your vote don't matter?
That's the question. That is the critical question that needs to be asked. And along with that, Tony, is why currently in 14 of our states, we have some serious voter suppression laws. Perhaps we don't have one in Oregon, but I'm a student of Dr. King. Injustice anywhere is injustice everywhere. And we have right now voter suppression laws in 14 states. The vote matters. That's why, as that question you raised, why do you think they're working to make sure that you don't have it? The essence for me of celebrating Black History Month is remembering the importance of the vote, the access to the ballot box. Yes, it's about our accomplishments, but it's about never forgetting that at the core, the underbelly of this is that right to the ballot box, remembering that and not taking that for granted. And thinking about all the states that have legislatures who have put in place voter suppression laws. You can't vote early. You have to register at a certain time. You can't vote on election day. That's a way to suppress the vote. And when it's done by legislators who have the majority to enact such policies. And so the folks that didn't vote in those states, they have an impact on that. A non-vote is a form of a vote. And in terms of voter education, we have got to get that message out there. And it's critically important in 2024. This is going to be one of the most transformative elections of our lifetime. And I take a heavy responsibility to do more toward voter education. But just as you talked about how those laws and those amendments were passed, the Civil Rights Act 65, 1960, 65, all of those dates are very important, but it's always been about suppressing the vote and making sure that as Black Americans, we do not have full access to the ballot box. And then we can't have those three things that D'Angelo talked about: economic, political, and he mentioned one more. All of those things are grounded in the right to vote and to use that vote to shape your own future.
Yeah, the other one was social. But D'Angelo, I want to bring you back in where you could touch a little bit about that social one. And then also, I'd like you to share, like you said, you were 32 years old.
Yeah.
What happened to you in a positive way that made you want to pursue and understand the importance of the journey that you're on now?
So, and I'll be brief because it's a long story and I don't want to waste time. I was 28 years old. I went to New Zealand for a concert. And so I was there for a week. It was at a campground, and everyone that worked there was indigenous Maori. And I thought, it was amazing because, all these people that are really from this land are employed, working, they're, great. I go back to the city in Auckland, and the only other person that I saw that was indigenous and Maori was homeless.
Okay.
And so at the time, I was thinking about moving out of the country, going to Australia, just kind of trying to figure it out. But I thought that was, one of the most horrible things that I saw, that this person who is indigenous to this land, for the entire 7 days that I was there, the only one that I saw was homeless. And then I had the thought where, who am I to criticize another country and the things that I see there, the injustices I see there, when I have yet to really take a stand in my own backyard, right? And so that was really the change for me. Actually, I think I was 26 years old, so it was 6 years ago. That was the change for me, where I felt that it was important for me to clean up the things that I saw in my backyard, and really make changes where I know how things operate and how things work, or at least learn more about how things operate before I go poking my nose in somebody else's business. But I've committed my life here to Portland, and this is where I want to stay, and this is where I want to impart change. And hopefully that has a wider spreading effect.
Well, I appreciate what you just said, and I'm going to give you a clap praise on that as well. And Dr. Rosa, I want to let you know, it didn't go past me about the topic and the show that we need to do. So I'm there for you. We just make that happen. We got D'Angelo here with that young mind, that young energy, and we can bring some of the young people that and we just get the information out, and we'll help whatever we can do collectively to bridge that gap, and as you said, make that marriage a little tighter. So I'm
And we have the Fraser family.
Oh my goodness!
The young people in.
You mentioned the Fraser family. That's the musical piece.
Yes.
Now, people, we heard a little finance. We had a little politics.
Yeah.
I can jump in and say one more thing. I apologize. I want to.
No worry. Come on.
I want to make this point very strongly, is that, I've been involved in politics for a short amount of time, relatively speaking, but I've been able to sit in a lot of different rooms, local, national, federal, however you want to explain it. And what I realized is that all of these people that are in these positions have been elected in, and not very many of them look like or represent me, right? And so you have these people that don't look like you, that don't represent you, creating policies and speaking on your behalf. And so for young people who feel like they're not being heard, when you don't vote, you don't participate in that process, you are in essence allowing that in perpetuity. So until you decide to have a vote and make sure that the people that represent you, that look like you, that speak the language that you speak, and may not align on every issue, because you're never going to find that perfect candidate, but align just enough that you can back that person and get them in that position and have that conversation, and then you get involved, then you can impart that change. But it's not until you get in that voting process and really understand your candidates, really understand what's at stake. I think local is a great way to start, to really see the changes in your community. So then you can understand how that works on a national level. But you have to get involved in order to see the change and see the people that represent you in those spaces. Otherwise, you'll never be heard.
Right, and you can start at the grassroots at your school, in your community. Start that letter. So if you don't feel like you're overwhelmed, start right there, because your children are going there. Find out what's going on in the schools. The laws that's been passed that involves the school, that's your children. So you can start right there. I really appreciate what you were just saying. And Dr. Rosa, you want to add a little point before we go? Because I want to bring this family on too.
No, I think I've said so much. I hope I didn't say too much.
Oh, no.
I did want to take this opportunity to talk about the precious vote, the fact that we need to vote. I wanted to keep it as simple as I could, to emphasize the importance of the vote and the underlying message that a non-vote is in fact a vote. And I appreciate so much how D'Angelo has framed that from his perspective as a younger voter. Unless younger voters are involved, they are allowing others to shape their future, that they're not in the room, that they're not at the table. And I'm so grateful of his availability to help us make that point today. But I don't have anything else I'd like to add, other than that I hope you'll do an intergenerational program so that we can talk about how we build community. And let's hear from our other guest.
We're gonna do that program. D'Angelo, before we go, some words out to the young folks, to the young people.
Oh, for me, like I said,
from you to them, yes.
If you want to impact change, you got to start somewhere. And I think the vote is the most important place. If you want to see people that represent you, you got to get them in the door.
There you go.
It's just that simple.
There we go. We appreciate each and every one of you. And they talked about the vote. They talked about young people getting change. Because of the voting, I'm going somewhere with this, and the sacrifice, the family that you're getting ready to hear from are able to do what they do and share their gift with the world. And when we come off this commercial break, we're going to go to a family, the Frazier family, powerful family. Again, thank you, Dr. Rosa. Thank you, D'Angelo. Appreciate you. Whatever Straight Talk can do, we're there. Let's make that program, that topic that you spoke about happen on a continuing basis, because we're getting close to November. And before we know it, November will be here. So thank you both again. Appreciate you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Steve. Appreciate it. Our next guest, I tell you, I'm just gonna go straight over to this family. Appreciate him. Mr. Frazier, come on with your family. Hey, Austin, come on, family. We appreciate you sharing your gifts.
Yes, sir.
What you got for us?
We just want to say thank you so much to all three of you amazing guests. As a 20-year-old who don't know jack about taxes, you changed my life. So thank you for that. And also for the other two wonderful guests, thank you so much for just imparting your knowledge. You know, as a young person, you know, and a young mixed person, I think it's really important to know how this stuff works. And as someone who's not too privy to, you know, laws, how politics work, this was extremely informative to me, and that made a big difference for me. So thank you so much. But without further ado, we go.
Yo, yeah. You want us to start playing now, Tony?
Oh, yes, yes. And I want to drop something on you. Like Dr. Rosa talked to me about a topic. When you get the chance, because you got this brilliant mind, put something together about voting with some music.
Yes, sir.
Voting with some, got
Yes.
it. And I want to add this too. I know talking about the generation gap, you know, being an educator, I deal with that on a daily basis because I'm in front of a bunch of high school students. And so the generation gap between myself and the students is huge.
Yes.
And it's, and what I found is, and they talked about building bridges. And that's one of the things that we have to do as elders, I guess, quote unquote, elders, is to make sure we listen to what's going on in the young folks' world, because it is totally a different world than what we grew up in. There was no social media and all of those things that they're having to deal with now. And so what I've been able to do with, and I'm working with high schoolers 9th through 12th grade, is I just listen to the lingo and some of the stuff that they do, and then I try to connect with them that way. But then also I use the wisdom that my parents passed down to me, and I try to put it in a way that relates to them as well. So I know communication is so crucial when we're dealing with the different generations, and just to it could be just a super positive thing and help bridge a huge gap there. And so I appreciate that whole topic and about the politics, voting, and all of that is just wonderful. But communication and bridging the gap is so important.
We appreciate that. What you got for us?
Well, I'm a dad's gonna get out the way.
Okay. Say,
I was my phone for the Zoom call, so I'm hoping that it sounds okay. And so I'm gonna turn it over to them, and they gonna play something for you.
Don't worry.
And
we ain't here to yap, we here to jam.
okay. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. And you know, if it was up to me, you know, it would be the Frazier 5, but it's like trying to
right. Okay.
But all right, turn it over to them. I'm gonna go behind the camera and let them do something. They worked up something they cooked up for you.
Okay, we appreciate it. We appreciate you guys bringing us into your home. We really do. We
Oh,
do.
my pleasure.
Yeah.
Make sure you can see everybody.
Oh, yes, we got it. Oh, yes.
Okay, we ready?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Appreciate everybody. I just want to thank all our guests, our viewing audience, for just sharing your life with us. Taking a moment out of your time to share with talk and allow Straight Talk to come into your living rooms, on your phones. We can say on your phones now, right? And just share the information and as you see, the information was shared, and we're going to continue to share the information, continue to hit us on the DMs. That's the word we're using these days.
What's
and
next?
the social media platform. And Dr. Rosa, Fesso Day, D'Angelo, the Frazier family, we appreciate all of you. We do not take it for granted that you took time of your life to share with us. And all our viewing people, we thank you again for taking time out of your life to share with Straight Talk. And remember, Straight Talk is the show that cares about you, where the information comes from you people to the people. Be blessed, make some memories, be peaceful. Talk to you soon. Have an awesome, awesome day. Thank you so much.